For a session presented by Global Hotel Alliance, please welcome CEO of Global Hotel Alliance, Chris Hartley, in discussion with Skift President, Carolyn Kremins.
Hello again. Not quite lunchtime, soon. Chris, so last year we sat here in Dubai. It was exactly a year ago, and I ended the session and I asked you a question, and I asked you what was your prediction for how 2023 would look. Do you remember what you said?
It would have been positive, I think.
You said cautiously optimistic. Not that I expect you to remember exactly the words you used, but Global Hotel Alliance actually had its best year in the history, the 19-year history, since you founded it. So congratulations. That's pretty tremendous.
Thank you.
So Global Hotel Alliance is a collaborative alliance. It's made up of 40 plus brands, 800 hotels, 100 different countries. And the whole idea of it is independent and privately owned hotels can come together and really compete against some of the larger brands. And it's at the very center, at the core of it, is the loyalty program. From that, you have so much data and information. So you have a very unique perspective. So let's start with that. For the last few years since the pandemic, we've been hearing about the new normal, right? The new normal in travel. Every year is like, this is going to be the new normal. So I just have a question straight out. Are we normal? Like, did we hit it?
First of all, thank you for the compliments about our growth, and I think everyone's had a good year in 2023, so we should all congratulate each other. But yes, what is the new normal, or perhaps the next normal, or perhaps there isn't one at all? And I like to see where we are a little bit in terms of positive uncertainty. That is, we're pretty positive about the way travel's going, but we're very uncertain about how that positive growth is going to look and what sort of shape it will take. And it's interesting because you can see behind on the screen all the different independent brands that make up Global Hotel Alliance. Actually, here in Dubai, we have about 7 or 8 of those brands like Kempinski and Nikki Beach. And so we can aggregate a lot of data. We have 25 million customer records. So what we've been doing a lot is trying to figure out what customers are going to be doing over the next 12 months or so. Of course, we have to put some sort of a budget together, but we're getting input from brands around the world telling us what they think is going to happen. And positive uncertainty is very much the byword at the moment. Which markets are going to perform, which segments are going to perform. One thing's for sure, leisure travel is definitely where it's all going to stay in terms of the positive news in 2024. Leisure travel demand is off the charts. It's outstripping supply. That's driving rates up. The question is how sustainable those high rates are, and we'll come back to that a bit later. We've seen some very positive signs of international travel exceeding pre-pandemic numbers from markets like the United States. United States for us is actually triple in 2023 in terms of international stays what it was in 2019, which is just incredible number when you think about it. But at the same time, how sustainable is that with some of the geopolitical issues going on at the moment? On the other side of the world, and we'll come back to this in a moment, China didn't recover the way we expected it to, but recovered enough to give us some good results in the Asian market. But we're hoping and expecting a lot more out of that market in 2024. So as we head into next year, I would say overall the outlook is extraordinarily positive. You've heard from previous speakers about demand outstripping supply growth, which is always a good ingredient. But it is of concern that we're not sure which markets are going to perform in some of those geopolitical tensions as well.
Positive uncertainty. You heard it here first. Okay, so let's talk about the loyalty program because that is so important. You have 25 million members now as part of your program, and I actually asked ChatGPT what's the average number of loyalty programs that someone belongs to, and it said 15, but I bet that because we're all in travel, we probably have double that at least. And all these loyalty programs are competing for your attention, right? So, when it comes to loyalty, do you think that customers are loyal to brands? Are they loyal to programs? Or are they just loyal to themselves?
Well, I have some controversial views on this, which would take too long to talk about in a few minutes. But I think customers are always loyal to themselves. And so first and foremost, you have to ask yourself about a loyalty program. Why is a customer liking my brands or liking my loyalty program? And I think first and foremost, you have to ask the question is, why would a customer be part of the loyalty program? First of all, it's transactional. They want a reward. And secondly, it's recognition. And everyone loves recognition. And recognition creates an emotional attachment to a brand. The problem is that most brands, especially small brands like we have, do not have enough reach to make customers loyal to them as they travel around the world. And so what we've done is brought all of these brands together so that, in fact, what happens is customers become loyal to the loyalty ecosystem rather than simply one brand. There simply aren't enough, in our world, Capella hotels or Kempinski hotels, despite the fact they're beautiful brands, to satisfy customers' needs wherever they go. And I think at the other end of the spectrum, you have brands like, if I can say, Hilton, that has just launched this year, Spark by Hilton and Tempo by Hilton and Motto by Hilton. I don't even know. There was a great article in the Wall Street Journal that Skift talked about it actually, which said, what are all of these brands? And the answer is there's no consumer that understands what these brands are, but they serve a particular purpose in a particular segment. And most importantly, they're adding to a loyalty ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do with GHA Discovery. But beyond hotels, you then also need to add more to that loyalty ecosystem to get customers more emotionally engaged. And that's why you look for partnerships. We've done a cruise partnership, for example, because people don't travel all year round. Yeah. And loyalty programs, therefore, need to attract and engage people more than 20 days a year. You've got another 350 days a year that you've got to figure out how to engage with customers. And that's where events and partnerships are a way in creating more customer engagement than simply a travel transaction.
Right, right. I heard that you actually just signed Regent Cruise, so congratulations on that. And I know you have something else up your sleeve, but I tried to pull it out of the green room, but to no luck. So we'll have to stay tuned. I want to pick up on the thread that you said earlier, and it's on the whole Asia, Middle East, India. We all expected that China would come roaring back, that the outbound travel would really just take off, but that didn't happen. But what we did see is that India outbound has really, really picked up, and there's a couple of reasons that support that, just like a higher disposable income, the desire to travel, the burgeoning middle class. So from your point of view, what are you seeing when it comes to these markets? Where are you seeing the action?
Well, it's fascinating if you just take India and China, and I think as we look to 24, you can broaden that to BRICS. UAE and Saudi are also joining the BRICS community next year, and they're really the ones to watch. But let's just say India and China. You've got India that's overtaken China in terms of population, but in terms of outbound travel, India is 1/10 of what China was pre-COVID. So India outbound travel is around 10 to 13 million trips a year, whereas China pre-COVID already was about 150 million. If you take out Hong Kong and Macau, you're probably around 100 million. So you're talking similar size markets, but China's 10 times bigger already. But China has only recovered by about 1/4 by halfway through this year. It's definitely improving in the second half of the year in terms of pre-COVID, whereas India has actually started accelerating in terms of outbound travel, and we've seen that in our numbers this year. So the question is, will India, with the same population and a much younger population, the average age in India is 27, the rest of the world, typical populations are more than 10 years older than that. So you've got a young population with growing wealth who want to travel. And this part of the world, by the way, is most popular for India. So you have to look at India as a huge growth opportunity. We're seeing the numbers already. If you take 2024 to 2040, you're looking at growth where India will eventually match China during that period. So if they're at 10 to 15 million trips a year at the moment, you would expect that number to be somewhere around 80, 90 million in the next 15 years. So that's a huge opportunity in itself. And of course, sitting here in the Middle East, they're our closest neighbor, and their number one choice for international travel is this region.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of great stuff in there. That's why we're doing our Skift India Summit, so I hope we see you there too. It all makes sense. I just want to touch on business travel, corporate travel. Like we keep talking about, will it come back? How will it come back? Is it coming back? Are we evolving? Or do you think we plateaued? What's your point of view on business travel, corporate travel?
Well, I could give a slightly non-corporate answer to that, which is it hasn't come back the way people hoped and expected. And the publicists for business travel will tell you, no, it's going to be great and it's going to come back stronger than ever. It hasn't. It seems to have plateaued around about an 80% recovery level in 2023. I think it will continue to creep up a little bit in 2024, but we're not seeing it hit 2019 levels at this point next year. So the question is, where is it going? What we're seeing, however, is that more and more people take what's been going on here in Dubai in the last few weeks, COP28. A lot of people I knew, and I'm sure you did, came to COP28 to participate, but added holiday on as well. And that's very much a feature we're seeing. In fact, GBTA is saying that 35% of people traveling on business are adding a leisure component to that trip. So that's, again, an opportunity. So this blended travel. Companies, though, are restricting business travel. And if you look at the big companies, tech companies like Amazon or Oracle, for example, Oracle's our technology partner, they've just cut back on traditional business travel. You know, you have to have a really good reason to travel today to be allowed to make that, especially those international trips. So I think business travel's opportunity is broadening the reason why people travel and adding those extra stays on, and companies allowing people to go on a trip and then working perhaps a week in the destination from anywhere, work from anywhere type of concept. And I think that's going to drive further demand for this blended segment in the future. But traditional business travel, it's struggling.
Not so much. You know, I just came from ILTM in France before I got here, and there were, I think, like record numbers, like 8,000 people that were there. So I don't know, it just feels like it's in some way, shape, or form, the networking in person is always going to be there. Before we have to leave this stage, because they're going to throw us off, any last words that you? I'm going to ask you the same question. When we sit here a year from today, how is the year going to be next year?
Okay, well, you can challenge me again this time next year. I'm very positive about 2024. I don't think it will necessarily shape up the way we think it will, but it will be a good year. There are some background noises that are a little worrying at the moment. US, is it going to be as strong as it's been this year? I'd love to think it will be. You tell me, you're from that part of the world. But I think another positive year waits for us, and it's going to be driven by leisure travel, and Asia is going to be the place people are going next year.
So we're positively uncertain. Thank you very much.